And it's time now for Joanne's World of Nutrition, brought to you by Nutrition World, located in downtown Fort Pierce. Very conveniently located, as a matter of fact, right there across US 1 from downtown Fort Pierce's City Hall building. And with us right now in the studio to present our wonderful show today is Joanne Seeger.
We're getting into the groove, and we have another exciting guest with us this morning. On the phone, live from Tampa, is my good friend Shane. Good morning, Shane Hennessy. How are you this morning?
Morning, Joanne. I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Shane, are you an early morning riser, or do you kind of roll out of bed like I do?
It depends. Right now I'm in Tampa. I'm on the road, and so I tend to wake up pretty early. I'm actually staying at a place on the Hillsborough River, and it's very beautiful. So I woke up early, and I've been enjoying it.
Oh, to appreciate it.
Sometimes I like to.
I used to live in
sleep in,
Tampa. Is it an area with the big old trees? I miss those big old trees that Tampa has.
Yeah,
do
there's
you
a
have
lot.
that view? Oh, nice. I'm jealous.
A lot of old growth and a lot of bamboo around me too.
Oh,
oddly
wow.
enough.
Hey,
Pretty
maybe
neat.
you'll see a panda. Haha. Yeah. The only trees I get to see is the one construction companies plant the palm trees. Yeah, very boring. I'm getting over them. All right, Shane. Well, we start every Thursday morning with my listeners with a breathing exercise. Would you like to join us?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, cool. So if any newbies are listening, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you spending some time with me this morning. So breathing, obviously, very, very important, especially right now. So let's just take a few moments to do a really good exhale out of negativity, drama, fear, anxiousness, whatever might be boggling you. And we're going to breathe in only using our nose for 5, hold for 5, and exhale for 5. We're going to do this 2 times just to get our blood pressure down, get us focused, and get us ready for our day. All right. You ready, Cliff? Expert counter?
Okay, let everybody exhale all the negativity out now. All right, now begin with your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again. In. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. And release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you, Cliff. All right. I hope everyone feels better. I definitely do. How about you, Shane? Feel better?
Super relaxed.
Super relaxed. I love it. All right. Well, just 2 really quick announcements. At the store, I got in some beautiful essential oil diffusers, and I'm doing a special. If you buy any 2 essential oils today, okay, you get 20% off on a diffuser. Okay, so 2 essential oils of your choice, because it's really important if you're going to use diffusers in your home that you use natural oils. You don't want to put synthetic fragrances into your air for your respiratory system. Not a good idea. It's a toxin. So always use natural, really high quality oils. They go a long way. They can last you months. They make you feel better. Your environment smell better. Everyone comes to my store and they always know I got a new smell of the day, peppermint or eucalyptus, whatever. So come check out our new diffusers. And the other thing is that we have 2 Ion Foot Detox machines. So if you do have a good friend, you want to come experience the Ion Foot Detox together, or your spouse or significant other, we do have 2 machines that we're booking at the same time now. So come and check out the Ion Foot Detox. Help get rid of aluminum, cadmium, that glyphosate from nasty Roundup. So come give that a try. Only $25 each, or a package of 10 for $200. All right, Shane. So you are officially what I'm going to call the Hemp Man. Is that a good title for you?
Hemp man.
The
Oh
Hemp
boy.
Man. All
I'll
right,
take
so
it.
I'm going to start the show with just a little personal drama because I want my listeners, because some of my listeners, like Rhonda, good morning, Rhonda, have been listening to me for over 10 years. So some of them kind of know, like, all my life story and drama. So, but the newbies don't. So I'm going to kind of give them a little picture of how you and I really, I don't know what the word is, where I found out how experienced you are with hemp. So here we go. Here's the story, listeners. I was in my office when I was at 2nd Street and Avenue A, and I had just lost my mom, unexpected death, and I also just found out that my husband of 14 years was, now ex-husband, thankfully, was leading a double life in South Florida. So let's just say when Shane walked in the office, I was barely breathing. I couldn't even stand. I was crying. I was a basket case. It was not a good look for me. But Shane kind of like dug into this little magic box and said, "Here, Joanne, just take a little bit of this." And I trusted him. And so, he's extremely knowledgeable. And I took a little of this stuff and I felt better within minutes. I had this sense of well-being. I just felt great. And, this goes many years back. And I'm like, what is this? He's like, it's CBD and it's from hemp. And, he starts telling me this whole thing. And at that point in my life, I really just wanted to get relief. I didn't really want all the education. So all I remember is the relief and the feeling of controlling that horrible feeling in my stomach and where my knees were buckling and the tears would just keep coming. So if you're suffering with grief, anxiety, all these terrible things that can cripple us, or you're just kind of having a bad day, especially right now, this is a show you really want to pay attention to because Shane is a world of knowledge. Throughout the years, he's definitely perfected his knowledge. So, Shane, how do you like that for a backstory, huh?
Yeah, geez, man.
I know. But I want to tell
heavy.
him, like, I mean, right? Heavy. But this is how you really, when you first said like CBD, I mean, I really had no clue what that whole world was about. And it's still a little mystifying to me. And I think many of my listeners are still utterly confused about the world of hemp and CBD and where marijuana comes into play. It's super confusing for people. So I'm hoping that today's show, you can kind of help us because you have such a great way to, tell it in very easy layman's terms. So you want to start by letting the listeners know, like, what is hemp's history and where a lot of this information came from?
Yeah, absolutely. I can start there at the beginning, and the beginning is really as far back in time as history records. With every culture on the planet, you find hemp, and it's been used, truly for just about every practical purpose you can imagine, from medicine to rope to pottery to construction to fabrics to, honestly, just everything, oils and paints, and so it goes on. And it's interesting how most of that has been forgotten around the world. It's sad too. It really comes up to this whole war on drugs and how marijuana gets involved in the, like any medicine. I think it can be abused, and I think that at one point there were a fair number of people that were kind of maybe going overboard with it, but no excuse for outlawing it throughout the whole planet. Essentially is what we did through the United Nations, and over the last 20 years, give or take, it's really had a resurgence throughout the world, and we in America were one of the last, if not the last, country to bring it back legally, which we've done now. And so there's all these hurdles one has to go over in order to grow hemp legally, but it can be done, and a lot of farmers are doing it, and there's a lot of good reason to do that. But with regard to the one that we're talking about with CBD, that goes back really far as well, and comes right up to, in early America, in our history, up until it was outlawed in the 1930s, cannabis or hemp, and cannabis being the kind of more broad term that we can use to describe this plant, because it's hemp, it's marijuana, it's all these other things, but the one term I believe that is kind of universal and refers to all of it would be cannabis. And so anyway, that has been a very important ingredient in so many formulas over the years, elixirs and all of these over-the-counter medications that we had access to. Queen Elizabeth goes down in history as having used cannabis for her migraine headaches, for example, and there are all these other examples of people throughout history using this, and then with the laws outlining all of this, it just kind of disappeared. And so CBD isn't new in that sense at all, but what CBD is referring to is sort of an active component within the cannabis, within the hemp, and that component is referred to as a cannabinoid. And that's one of the things that makes cannabis very unique, is that it contains these cannabinoids, and our body is designed to utilize these cannabinoids in a very special way. We have a system in our body we refer to as the Endocannabinoid System, and that system is engaged in keeping homeostasis, keeping balance with all of these functions in our body. Really, every self-regulatory function in our body: the need to eat, the need to sleep, the need to go to the bathroom, digestion, the immune system, the nervous system, one that we can dive into a little deeper maybe when we start to talk about things like anxiety and how this can help with that. But all of these systems are maintained by this endocannabinoid system. And we produce these cannabinoids naturally in our bodies. The most abundant source of them that we know of is actually in mother's milk. And these cannabinoids that we produce feed that system and keep everything else running smoothly. So when we become deficient in the natural production of our cannabinoids, then something like CBD can be extremely beneficial to bring balance back to that system, and as a result, so many other things kind of fall into place.
Okay. So now you mentioned, the big marijuana word, and so I think there's a lot of confusion. So when you say a hemp plant, is that one plant the same plant that people use to get high on?
Right. So the confusion, so I guess the best way to start with that is, what is the difference between hemp and marijuana? And the difference is that what you have is cannabis, and this cannabis has been bred over generations and generations and hundreds of years, thousands of years really, but it's been sort of designed for two different very unique purposes. And so what we refer to as hemp is a plant that grows very, very tall and has a very thick stalk and is used primarily for textiles, for fabrics, as well as the seed is a superfood, and you can grow it for its food content that way. It has a lot of very practical purposes, as opposed to what we refer to as marijuana, which is a very small, when I say small, what I mean is it's typically very short and bushy plant that's bred specifically to produce a very oily, terpene-rich, flowering aspect to it that brings about what we refer to as these terpenes and these very rich in cannabinoids as well. So there's a lot of overlap between hemp and marijuana, and it is a very gray area. But technically speaking and legally speaking, there's very specific cannabinoid that distinguishes the two, and that's THC. And so you've got CBD, you've got THC. You also have 100 other cannabinoids, give or take. But those two, the CBD and the THC, are the most talked about. The THC is the component that gets one high. And so the amount of THC that's in the plant is what would be used to be determined, whether or not this would be considered marijuana. And so the legal limit being 0.3%, that would determine that the plant, if it was over that limit, is now marijuana. Under that, we can consider that hemp. And that's really, really it. So it's one plant in the end that's been bred to have different purposes, different uses. And
now, are stores still selling the food products from the hemp, Shane? Like hemp milk, hemp hearts? Is that still popular?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely out there. I think that it has kind of CBD in a sense has sort of stolen its glory. 10 years ago, I think that hemp foods were sort of taking they were really getting quite popular, and now the discussion of hemp has turned in such a way that I've seen, anyways, a lack of understanding and a confusion there as well. For example, if you were to go on Amazon and try to look for a CBD product, you wouldn't find that. You would find all of these hemp products, and some of them are, this is, I think, too, a big part of where the confusion comes from, is like a lot of companies marketing to that confusion, really trying to confuse people to think that if they're buying something that says hemp on it, then it's CBD and it's medicinal and so forth. But so the products that we can find that are food are being confused for products that would contain these cannabinoids and be very beneficial. And while the hemp foods are extremely beneficial, particularly with regard to their omega fatty acids and the protein content and all the minerals and all these wonderful things, there's really not a lot of cannabinoids there, and so that benefit is being confused.
Yeah, I definitely,
those foods are definitely out there, and hemp seeds are one of the best superfoods that I know of.
I know. I remember when I couldn't even keep it on the shelf. It was like, I think even the NutriBullet people made it really famous, where they'd say, okay, add that into your drink every morning, and it was just flying off the shelves. And then just about that same time where CBD was, being stocked up, I stopped ordering the hemp hearts and the hemp seeds, because it seemed like the popularity started to go way down. So unfortunately, so there's still a place for that in our diet. Like you said, it is a superfood, so we need to kind of revisit that and get back into knowing food is our best medicine. But the CBD, it's funny because, everyone always says you can find anything on Amazon, but when it comes to the CBD world, not so much.
No, not yet.
Not so much.
Yet. But
which is good
I'm
for
glad
us
that you brought it
little
up,
local health food stores. It's good for us.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up, because it is kind of an issue that I'm passionate about, and I think a lot of the reason why the demand for the hemp seeds and the hemp foods in general has diminished has to do with the demand for CBD. When you go to the source, and that's the farmers who are growing the hemp, the hemp that they're growing they have to be very specific about the strains that they're growing, whether or not they are growing for food or whether they're growing for cannabinoids or for CBD. And so the profit turnaround with CBD is so high, and the food, they don't make a whole lot of money growing hemp for food yet. So especially here in America, where a lot of hemp farmers are wanting to grow hemp, very, very few, and I mean like less than 5% of the overall farmers in the country that are growing hemp are growing for food, at least as of a year ago. I haven't really checked in on those numbers, too recently. But the point is we can't. That's not sustainable, and we need to really focus on growing hemp for food alongside growing it for CBD in order to really allow that whole industry to flourish and take off and allow farmers to grow hemp in a meaningful way, in a sustainable way.
Gotcha.
I think it's really vital and important. And
Hey.
CBD has, when I started doing this, and that was in 2013, and it was like you said in the beginning of the show when you talked about your story, not many people knew about it, and it was something that was really kind of scary for a lot of people.
It was,
yeah,
the unknowns.
Yeah, and the laws were so hazy, and we weren't even allowed to grow hemp then legally here, and it all had to be imported. And now, luckily, we can work with Kentucky farmers, but at the time we had to import everything because of the laws, and even that was sort of hazy. And so it was a real interesting time, and now it's gotten to this point where you can't go down any street anywhere that I've seen without seeing a sign of somebody selling CBD. I mean, gas stations, for example. I drove by yesterday and a big sign out there that they sell CBD now, and it's just, it's kind of gotten to a point where I think that if you understand the real benefit of what CBD and cannabinoids have to offer, then you can see what's happened here is really an injustice, and it's becoming sort of this, how do I even put it properly, just something that people are going after but not really knowing why, because it's popular.
It's making me a little scared about how, I look at this as such important medicine, and then I drive, like you mentioned, and I see it sold at places that do not have staff that educate people on health. And one example, I use this example a lot because it was just so scary to me. A customer bought from, it happened to be a gas station, a CBD product, brought it into me and said, Joanne, is this okay? And, I try not to be critical or judgy, but I do want to see, what is it? It was a sleep remedy with CBD that had 30 milligrams of melatonin with the CBD. And it had no traceability whatsoever of the sourcing of either. And so I couldn't tell, was it full spectrum? What type of base was it in? What was the excipients? What was the fillers? There was no information. And it was $5 a serving. $5 a serving. So I'm like, it's not like it was cheap and 99 cents or something. And 30 milligrams of melatonin, which could be super scary, especially for a young person. So it's that type of stuff that really gets me heated up, because I'm like, this is something so special, and now everyone's going to see it everywhere and think it's not so special because it's everywhere, but it's not the right stuff everywhere. So that's why I had you on the show today, because I'm hoping that my new listeners or my regular listeners will spread the message that CBD is as amazing as they think it is, but they just have to get the right one,
Yeah,
the
for
stuff
sure.
that actually
it's important
works.
to understand that there are aspects to this that are very important to get the benefit. I think when you look at most of the products that are in these places, like the gas stations that are selling it, where the staff really have no idea what they're selling, the bottom line is they want a product that they think will sell, and if you put those 3 letters on it, somehow it just magically starts to sell better.
It starts
pushing.
pushing.
I mean, we've seen everything. I've seen like CBD toilet paper, for example.
Oh my God!
It's just an idea, that you put CBD on it.
Oh, thank God I didn't see that one, because that would really, really get my goat. All right, Shane, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break.
I've seen it, just about seen it all now.
Oh my God!
Slap CBD on there, and let's see how many more we can sell. And it's scary because people really. There's so many amazing testimonials out there,
all right, Shane,
talking about CBD.
I'm going to cut
great.
you off for a second, okay? Because we're doing the 10:30 break. I can't believe it. It's already 10:30. Hang on tight. We'll be back in a minute.
More with Shane when we come back.
Hi, this is Joanne from Nutrition World. Just letting all of my listeners know we have been diligent in sanitizing the store and using every precaution possible to keep our customers safe. I am offering free shipping on all orders over $30 if you choose not to come in the store. I am really hoping that all my listeners are taking time right now to get fresh air, to get exercise into their daily routine, keep hydrated, and get the proper amount of sleep. It's critical right now that attitude is everything. To please take time to laugh, to give yourself a break. You can find Nutrition World right on US 1 in Fort Pierce, across from Fort Pierce City Hall, in between Orange Avenue and Avenue A. Our phone number is 772-464-3598. Call me with any questions or concerns. All my best, Joanne.
Joanne's Nutrition World, now open from 11 to 3, Monday through Saturday. Call 464-3598.
Hey, it's Dr. Ravi at Tradition Family Chiropractic. We are dedicated to serving you and your family with integrity, compassion, and innovative care through the most advanced chiropractic care ever in chiropractic history, encouraging your health and your family's health to its maximum potential on a regular basis. Call us today at 772-345-0060 or schedule online at traditionhealth.com for your free consultation.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
And of course, we are now back with Joanne's World of Nutrition once again. Here's Joanne Seeger.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning. On today's show, we have my friend and guest, Shane Hennessy. He's kind of given us the 101 on hemp and CBD and just kind of a little backstory. I really feel like sometimes when something becomes popular, we take it for granted. We just don't realize how special it is and what a journey it took to get to be in your hands. So we are selling Shane's CBD. Oh, I just ruined the thing. Cliff was taking a picture for the cameras. I didn't realize it. Okay. So I was going to hold it like a little model pose. All right. So it's called True CBD. And Shane, so you gave us the backstory. So what made you decide to go into, working with the Kentucky farms? Why did you choose Kentucky? I mean, I never think of Kentucky ever. So what made that relationship occur?
Well, we had been importing the oil, and when the laws opened up so that we could start to source, domestically, we looked at several places. We looked at Colorado, Washington, some of the ones that might come to mind. Unfortunately, though, what kept happening with those growers is the THC content kept being too high for us to use that product legally. And the Kentucky growers, those folks weren't in, that was not a state where medical marijuana was allowed. And so their hemp was really low in THC. And we fell upon these fifth-generation hemp farmers that were really just quite passionate about what they were doing, and they taught us so much. When we first met them, we said we want a CO2 extracted, which was certainly the thing at the time, still kind of is really. CO2 extracted is just really clean way of doing an extraction to get an oil. But these guys were telling us that no, you don't want that. No, you want an ethanol extraction. We fought them for almost a year until we finally did the testing with the same plants to show that we did a CO2 extraction side by side with an ethanol extraction, and it showed what they kept telling us, which was, first of all, there was no residual ethanol with their process, and so it was very clean, and there was therefore really no reason to to poo-poo that idea. It was that's kind of the main reason why you wouldn't want an ethanol extraction. You wouldn't want any residual solvent in there. That would be, horrible. So they showed us, first off, that wasn't the case. And then secondly, that they were able to pull more cannabinoids, specifically more CBD, but also more of the trace cannabinoids, the CBG and the CBN and these other, cofactors called terpenes that are really an important aspect of what you would refer to as a full spectrum or complete spectrum CBD product. That would be opposed to an isolate, which you would just have CBD and none of those other aspects. So they showed us that with this ethanol extraction, they were able to get more of all of these wonderful components, and they sold us on it. So we've been working with them for many years now, and I believe that is one of the distinguishing, features of the true CBD hemp oil is that it is unique. Not the only one that isn't CO2 extracted, but it's hard to find, and I do believe that it brings a whole nother level of benefit. However, it also brings with it a flavor profile that throws some people off.
Well, and I also want to note, too, that most CBDs, especially the ones I carry, have an MCT oil base or other oils. You actually use hemp oil as your base for your hemp product.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, so, and there are people that are sensitive to MCT oil, which is derived from coconut, so that is a plus for them. But we'll go back to the flavor profile. Go ahead. You describe it, Shane. Go ahead.
Make sure that I really let people know that it doesn't taste very good, and it doesn't taste very good. It's the idea here for me anyways is that if you want blueberry cheesecake, you can get blueberry cheesecake, but blueberry cheesecake is probably not the best thing if you want to get the full benefit of using the CBD. And the oil, there's two ingredients in there. It's the CBD emulsified in hemp seed oil, and that's it. There's nothing else. And I believe very strongly that the purity of this product is another distinguishing feature that it brings. I also believe that the hemp seed oil is superior to any other carrier oil in this product in that when you use it, you're getting additional cofactors that are in the hemp that you're not getting in that CBD extraction. And so it is a more complete spectrum in that regard. This is an oil that can be used topically as well as being used sublingually. And I always want to point out, because over the years it's come, just extremely clear to me that using this oil topically may be even more beneficial than taking it internally. And I'm not just talking about for pain, for inflammation and skin issues, etc., but I'm talking about for anxiety and stress. For example, myself, I've used this many times over many years for tension and stress. And for what I end up getting are tension headaches, which start in my shoulders. I'm kind of putting my shoulders up to my ears over the course of the day. And so when I use the oil, not only am I taking a few drops under my tongue, but I'm also taking a few drops and massaging my shoulders and my neck and behind my ears, and maybe even, pulling on my ears a little with it, and really, allowing myself the time, even if it's just 5 minutes, in the space to take some deep breaths and relax. The greatest benefit, I believe, that CBD has to offer us is the ability to relax, but it won't force us there. It's going to give us the ability to get there, but we still have to do the work on our own and take those deep breaths. And so when we're using CBD, you can't just use it like a, Advil or Tylenol or whatever and just kind of take it and plow through your day and hope that it does its job. It's a part of your own process of bringing yourself to that place of relaxation. And finding where you hold your tension in your body and using this oil topically as well as taking it internally is the best way to get that full benefit.
That's a great idea. Now, for a long time, we do sell like ointments and creams and the CBD products. And so some people kind of get confused, which one. And I have to be honest, I've always pushed the internal thinking, okay, this is going to work with your whole endocannabinoid system to re-regulate and make things work the way they were meant to work. But I can see what you mean, especially externally. Your skin is the largest organ. It will work that way. And there are a lot of people that, whether they don't want to deal with an oil under their tongue or a taste profile, external or there are some people that still have that stigma with the whole marijuana, THC, so they don't want to consume it. So I guess this is good to know that yours externally has been showing great results. Because I know the ointments definitely work. I know people praise them.
Yeah, and it's funny, too. A few years back, we were working on a topical formula, and I literally had several different things that I was kind of contemplating what we could work with and do. And believe it or not, I got hit by a car.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
I was in rough shape for a while. Yeah, I was riding my bike in my neighborhood, literally in my front yard, and this lady kind of lost control of her car and just plowed into me.
Oh, my gosh, Shane, I had no idea. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I had no broken bones, but I was extremely beat up. And so, I was using, it was, the universe does things, right? I'm trying to figure out the best topical use for CBD. And anyways, long story short, what I fell on was everything that I had in front of me ultimately, to me, was not as good as just putting the oil on directly. And so it came to me that rather than create a topical product, empowering people with the knowledge that they can use this oil, they can add it to any cream or ointment. If you want to put it in your arnica cream or something, that's cool. But, I personally found for me that using the oil just a few drops, topically at a time was really the most beneficial, the most effective. And so that's what I've come to recommend. And I'm all about empowerment. With this product, there's a few different strengths, but there's one product, and it's the all-purpose. Use it topically or internally. It's good for kids. It's good for animals. You don't need bacon flavored to give it to the dog. It's okay, you can, but it's not necessary. The dogs are even, less worried about the flavor than we are most of the time.
I know our tongues are so brainwashed, between the sugar and the salt, and it's hard to appreciate some normal things. And yours is, I've been doing it every day now, and it is growing on me. So I do have to say I'm getting a little more bitter overtone, which I love bitters. So a little bitter's coming through, and I do feel like my tummy is appreciating it, and really being receptive. Like we talked about, we need all the different receptors met on our tongue, the sour, the bitter, the astringent, and we're not getting any of those through our diets. And, we need that. And so this is definitely making my tummy kind of get this connection going where, okay, I see your digestive system's working better now. And everything is working really well this week. So I'm definitely getting used to it. But I do have to still chase a little water after. Just a little. That's fine. You can absolutely chase it, and you can start with just like one drop, and you don't notice it too much, and you kind of work your way up a little bit. But the thing is too is that oftentimes people have been told or have for whatever reason fallen into using 25 milligrams, 50 milligrams, in my opinion, very high amounts of CBD. And what I've learned personally over the years in traveling throughout and getting a lot of feedback is that more times than not, less is more, especially when you have a product that is pure and that you do actually taste it and that, it is unadulterated. That
2 to 3 milligrams. I mean, I've literally, I forget how many years ago it was, but I think it was Dr. Oz and somebody else, and they were talking about CBD, and they actually said, like, 3 milligrams of CBD, that won't do anything. And I'm like, going, what?
Well,
Like,
you never know. If it was junky stuff from someone's garage, that might be true.
Well, I mean, I suppose so, but at the same time, it's extremely misleading. I personally have seen 3 milligrams change lives.
Shane, let's take a step back real quick.
Show.
Yeah, Shane, let's take a step back real quick. So a lot of listeners still get confused because bottles, when they buy them, like the one I bought from you, they say 1,100 on the bottle, okay? So can you tell the listeners how most bottles are prepared and the dose you're talking about, how it's actually like per drop versus droppers? So much confusion with the dosing.
Right, yeah, so usually on a bottle of anything, it will tell you one of two things. It will tell you the amount that's in a serving size or the amount that's in the bottle. And, with regard to the true CBD, it talks about the amount that's in the bottle. So the 350 milligram bottle has 350 milligrams of CBD in that bottle, or the 1,100, 1,100 milligrams in the bottle. The amount on the serving size, if you look kind of on the back of the label, will tell you how many milligrams per serving. And so, for example, in the 350 milligram bottle, you've got, I believe, I haven't looked at it in forever, but I think it's like 4.7 milligrams in 12 drops. And so that's giving you, the way to kind of guide you in understanding how much you're taking. When starting off with CBD, I think it's important to start very low with just a couple milligrams, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 milligrams, and allow and maybe even less than that. For some people, that's not a bad thought, and it works, and it helps them. The thing is, it's easy to take more than you need without realizing it, because there's really no side effects, and you're not going to overdose on it. But you don't want to waste it, and so you want to find out how much you need, starting very low and working yourself up until you find a dose that is effective for you. And then also very important, using that dose as needed throughout the day. It as needed may mean, once a day. It may mean 3 times a day, and it may mean like 5 times in an hour.
Right.
If, for example,
because every day could be different. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're having an anxiety attack or something, to that effect, and you want to take a dose and kind of sit down with it and take a few breaths, and after 10 minutes, if you're still really not feeling as well as you'd like to, then take another dose or and kind of continue that until you get on top of it. So it very much depends on the day. But one of the cool things is the longer you're using CBD, especially if you're using it for stress, anxiety, tension, these types of things, the longer you're using it, the less you will end up needing moving forward most of the time. And so after you've been doing this for a little while, you can start to notice that as needed becomes less and less. And eventually you might get to that point where you're not even taking like a daily dose anymore. Now you're just using it as needed. And of course, that's where we'd all like to get to.
Yeah, I'm definitely a perfect example of that. I used it so much about 3 years ago for my anxiety. Now I take a little bit before bed, and I don't even remember the last time I had anxiety. It's amazing. And I tell people that, that some people are just, whether they're used to their medications, which unfortunately still aren't working for most of the people I personally know. They're on antidepressants, anti-anxiety, all these meds, and they're still not feeling well. They're still, this little doom and gloom or anxiousness or this trepidation feeling constantly nagging at them. And I'm like, this is no way to live. You need to give the CBD a try, but go for a good 90 days without giving it much thought, because all of a sudden you'll realize you're better and you didn't even know when it occurred. It's like, wow, I feel normal. I feel like I don't feel like my heart's about to like jump out of my chest anymore. It's a great feeling.
Yeah. And it's nice too, you mentioned the prescriptions, and so many people that I've talked to who have found CBD, end up at a point where they are able to and wanting to, kind of lean off of those prescriptions. And gosh, it can be hard. And, so often I've seen this where people would say, man, if only I knew about this, I would have never had to get on this stuff, and I wouldn't have to try to figure out how to get off of it. And, the body does become dependent on those things in a sense, where with CBD, that does not happen. It's quite the opposite, because what we're doing is feeding, believe it or not, a nutritional deficiency that's then allowing us the capacity to find that normalcy, right?
Right.
That was a fun rhyme. But anyway, it was something that I learned along the way, that this is really a nutritional deficiency that we're working with when we talk about cannabinoid deficiencies. And so rather than becoming dependent on this, we're actually sort of giving our endocannabinoid system a jolt and restarting it in the sense that now, like I said, the longer we use it, the less we need, because one of the reasons is we start to produce our own natural cannabinoids again more abundantly. And that really, it's just a great cycle that starts to happen, where the more we support that system, the more that system starts to regenerate and support us and support our body's needs back again, and particularly with the nervous system. Like I mentioned, I believe that our biggest impediment to healing is the inability to relax.
I totally agree with you, Shane. Yes.
Yeah. And so CBD plays a major part in that. And I wanted to mention something really quick, too, with this, the current situation and times and pandemic, etc.
What pandemic? What are you talking about? No, just
kidding.
Right. I won't go there. Okay, go ahead.
Well, no, but I would just say, something very recently that dawned on me is, so many people that I've worked with, helped, gotten feedback from over the years, use CBD to help them with social anxiety. And I really think that we all have social anxiety to some degree. I don't think anybody is comfortable the first time they stand up in front of a crowd and have to talk to everybody. It's just a natural thing that we get self-conscious, and I think that, social anxiety is just that to the extreme. But my point here is, with the refraining from social interaction and becoming digitally communicative, and we're really losing touch, with this connection and with social interaction. So people who struggle with social anxiety, I can only imagine, as they start to come out of the shell and out of the fear that they might be in. I mean, this has got to be a really challenging time for folks who struggle with this. And so I just know how beneficial CBD can be in this realm. And I think that it's worth mentioning the importance of social interaction and the importance of getting out there and overcoming the fears, and do it in a way that you feel, safe and responsible about, but don't allow, what we might consider social anxieties to be fed by a fear that you can overcome if you don't allow yourself to kind of fall into that. And the reason I say it is because it's just so darn important, the social interaction.
Right.
We really, really need it,
And you know what? And I want to mention, too, I found myself, I was never a texter. I always would call people. I mean, I love talking. I love people. But now I find that I get a little this weird, I won't call it anxiety, but almost this weird feeling if I go to call someone. I'm like, no, I should just text so I don't bother them. And I'm like, I feel like a lot of people are doing that now, where it's like we're not even hearing voices anymore. We're just, texting, and it's so sad. I mean, so sad. And I would kill to hear some of my loved ones' voices again, and that I've passed on. And I just hope everyone starts doing more FaceTime and Zoom, because I know in the beginning of this, we were getting into that whole new thing where you actually can see someone's face and hear their voice. So I hope we get back to that. If we're going to stay separated too much longer, that we at least do that so we can see our loved ones and friends' faces and voices. So, but we only have a few minutes left, Shane, and I realize we haven't talked about CBD's applications for like pain and sleeping and inflammation in general. Can you use the last few minutes to touch on that?
Sure, I will. But it's all going to sound the same.
That's okay.
Yeah, because what I believe is that it all comes back to relaxation. We can't sleep because we can't relax. You know, we even when it comes to pain, I mean, yes, it's anti-inflammatory, and yes, CBD has tremendous benefit in that regard. But ultimately, with chronic pain, what I've come to realize is that there's this vicious cycle. The more pain, the more tension and stress in the body. The more tension and stress in the body, the more pain. And by relieving that tension and that stress and bringing us to this place where we can take that deep breath, it takes the pain down a notch. And when the pain goes down a notch, the tension and the stress and all that goes down a notch. And then the cycle is reversed. And so CBD helps all of these things by bringing us to that place of relaxation where the body can do what the body does best and heal. It doesn't matter. It can be anything from acne to cancer. Oops, I said the C word. But it doesn't matter what it is. It's like it all comes back to relaxation and bringing us to that place where our body can do what the body does best. We got to get out of the way, and we have to relax, and then we can heal.
Yeah, very well
and
said,
there are many
Shane.
things we can do to, help that along. But I think CBD's benefit there is sort of that foundation of getting us to that place where we need to be.
Yeah, I mean, just take your CBD under your tongue or rub it on your skin like you mentioned, and take some good deep breaths and get some good positive vibes going, whether it be through music, meditation, prayer. It definitely works. I had a good listener. She said, Joanne, following this program, when should I see that my acid goes away? And I said, unfortunately, like acidity, especially with acid reflux, like inflammation, it's a by moment. It's not like, do this and then it goes away forever. Acidity comes from negativity, fear, anger, resentment, guilt, like all these emotions bring about these physical planes. So you have to really work on everything. Like you said, relaxing the body and really being hopeful and positive. But Shane, we have 1 minute left. I just got this little inspiration to give my radio show listeners a little extra perk. So if anyone's interested that's listening in trying Shane's CBD, which is called True Hemp at the store, we have it there. And we will give, usually only veterans get 10% off. But if you say you're a radio show listener, everyone will get a total of 15% off if they come in between now and 1 week. So True CBD. Shane, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you have a great time in Tampa.
Thank you, Joanne. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, cool. I'll catch you soon. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. And I think I'm losing track of day. Oh, wow, we're almost in August.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the last day of the month. All right, well, happy beginning of August, everyone, and I'll see you next week. Take care.
You've been listening to Joanne's World of Nutrition, brought to you by Nutrition World in Fort Pierce, across from City Hall, US 1, between Orange Avenue and Avenue A. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast. Dr. Stuart Shipe's Holistic Health Hour is straight ahead.